Hey folks, we're going to do something cool in this video. We're going to actually put our skills, our HTML and CSS skills to the test, and we're going to code a very simple web page. In fact, we're going to try and replicate Google's landing page, which is very simple, but it will be utilizing pretty much everything that we know: positioning, floats, HTML5 elements, images, so on and so forth. And we're going to be playing around with that to create this page right here. And I think this is a great place to start because it's simple enough so that it's not daunting, but there's a lot going on here that you'll see as we get into this. There's quite a bit involved even in the simplest of websites. So go ahead and in your code editor, create a new file called google.html and add a CSS file called google.css. We're going to start from scratch here. And the title, just put fake Google, because obviously this is not the real Google, it's just a fake one. And hook up your google.css. And I also added the conditional Internet Explorer script here for HTML5 shim. And I split the screen here in two sections in brackets. I have my HTML file and my CSS file here. You don't have to do that, but I like doing that for efficiency. Okay, let's start off. And we're not going to copy exactly what they have in their markup, because for one, that would be cheating. You could just inspect the element and then copy all of the source code that they put in there, but it would be messy because they have a lot of stuff going on in here that we don't really need to do. And we're just going to keep it simple, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's just for practice. So let's start off by doing the obvious part here. And we're going to grab this image. So you can grab an image off the web by right-clicking, hitting Inspect Element. And I'm assuming this is a background image. So if I click here, I can see the images here. I'm going to right-click on that, open link in a new tab. There it is right there. And now what I could do is I could literally just drag that onto my desktop. In fact, I'm going to drag it into my CSS folder that we're working in and put it in my images folder. I'm just going to call it google.png, throw it in my images folder, and I should be ready to go. Okay, now I'll just go back here. So let's just start off by adding the logo, the input, and a couple buttons. We're just going to start with the HTML. We're not going to worry about the CSS right now. Okay, first up, we're going to say image, source. We're going for images and google.png, alt. This will just say Google logo. And now if I save that and check it out in my browser, I will have the Google logo. Now it is twice the size of what it is here, and that's for when you look at on your phone with Retina screens, which is pretty much everything now. You need to have your images, your background images, 2 times the size so that you can so that it can show up nice and sharp. And in fact, we're going to use this as a background image instead of an image, because that's how they did it on the Google site. So start off with a level 1 heading, in fact, and let's say Google. And we'll leave it at that for now. Give it the ID of logo even. And we will use CSS to add that in after. Next up, we're going to add that form. And we're going to have an input with the type of search. And I don't believe they have any text in the search box. And we'll leave it like that for now. And we have a couple buttons as well. So we're going to say input type submit, and then the value is Google search, and then we have one more. Let's see what we have so far. So we have Google search input, Google search, and I'm feeling lucky. What do we got next? If you're looking at this from Canada, we have some text here that says google.ca offered in français. So I will add that text. Why not? Small tag, why don't we do that? That makes sense. And it doesn't have to be in the form because it's not a form element, so we'll do it outside. And we'll put a paragraph tag and then a small tag within it. So it is a block. So it's nested within a block level element. Google.ca offered in, and then we have a link. And in that link, we'll say français. And with the HTML entity, CCEDIL, which will give you that C with the little curly thing at the bottom. I'll show you here. There we go. Google.ca offered in français. Okay, and now we're actually going to, up here, we're going to add these elements. So Gmail images, we have a little icon here, sign in, and then we have a footer. So let's start off with this header. And we'll even give that header. So we'll start up here at the very top. We'll say header, and we're going to say in a nav bar, because it is a navigation. You know what? Instead of header, because it's not very prominent, we're just going to stick with nav. Keep the markups even simpler. We have an unordered list, and then we have some list items with some A tags in there, and I believe there are a few of them, and that would be Gmail images, and then these two. So there's 5 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this will say Gmail images, and we have this goes to, I believe, apps. So we're just going to say apps for now, and then I believe that was sign in, and U had the plus before it because that is going to Google Plus. Okay, so now we have our nav. Let's see what that looks like in our browser. So Gmail images, apps, sign in. There we go. And then at the bottom, we have a footer, and we have advertising, business, about. Let's start with that. So at the bottom, we have a footer. And we can add a footer tag because that would be semantic. And in here, we can add a nav as well. UL. And in fact, I'm just going to copy and paste the markup I had there. There were 3 at the bottom, and 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and those elements said advertising, business, about. Advertising, business, about. And in the bottom right, it said privacy terms, settings. Privacy terms, settings, and use google.com. So now we have all of the markup. All of the basic markup looks like this. Now, if you were to remove the styles from this page altogether, it should look pretty much identical to what I have here, just the plain markup. And so the first thing I want to do now is start cleaning this up. And we might as well start with the logo, because why not? And so I'm going to go in my style sheet here, and I'm going to start with a basic reset. So let's add a comment here, and we'll say fake Google CSS. And we're going to say everything has margin 0 and padding 0. And then I'm going to change the font size, the font family rather, to, I believe they are using, well, why don't we just find out? We could inspect the element. On this, it looks like Helvetica to me, but let's make sure. We want to be fairly accurate here. They're actually using Arial. So we'll just use Arial. And the font size looks to be about 12 pixels or so. So let's do that. Let's go font family, Arial, and then sans serif. Font size, 12 pixels. Let's see what it looks like so far in our little fake site. Okay, we're kind of getting there. I think the font size may be 13. Let's just do that. That looks better. Okay, now let's jump in and do that image. Let's start off with that. So we're going to select the level 1 heading with the ID of logo, and we're going to give it a specific height and width, and then give it a background image. So let's find out what the Google image is. Looks like it's 538 by 190. So 538 divided by 2 is 269. And so let's go back to our CSS and say 269 pixels. And height, I believe it said 190, which is 95 if you were to half it, 95 pixels. And let's say background URL. We're going to select the google.png, and we will say, well, top left. It will be that by default, but let's just say it, top left, and no repeat. We don't want that image to repeat. Let's see what we have so far. Okay, so it is appearing there, but obviously because the background image is twice the size, it's flowing outside of the box. Well, there's a simple fix to that. All you have to do is go background size, give it a value, and we're going to say 100%, meaning the background size will be 100% of the container. And this is a CSS3 trick, something that we use quite a bit on the web, but I wanted to introduce you to a little mini CSS3 trick there. So background size is 100%, and now we have our Google logo. But we have that H1 there, and we don't really need that H1 text. This is the H1, but we don't need the text. And all you really need to do to move that is a little kind of trick you can do to keep the text as a part of the content without totally removing it, is just say text indent and then negative 9999 pixels. So that means it's still on the screen. It's just really far off the screen. Now, some people are not cool with this method. It's really common, and I'm fine using it. Some people say it's like it's a black hat SEO trick or whatever, because you're keeping the H1 text there and you're just moving it off the screen. But the thing is, like, the H1 is the proper title. It's, in this case, Google. If I said something like Britney Spears with, I don't know, Christina Aguilera or whatever like that, and you're trying to get SEO points, you're never going to get SEO points by that, like doing that, by the way. No one's searching for that. But that's kind of the problem that people have with that. But I think it's totally fine. It's quite common, and you can read about it, the text indent trick. And so now, anyway, it will disappear off the screen. It's still on the screen, but it's not within the box there. So now we have our logo. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually center in the middle of the screen all of that content. So that would be the heading and the form and the paragraph tag here. So I'm going to wrap all of this in a div, and I'm going to say just container. We'll give it a container ID. Down below this paragraph tag here. There we go. And I'm going to indent all this in. And now I will select this container. Let's do it up here. And we will say, well, let's find out the width on Google's website here. It's roughly 580 pixels. And if you're wondering how I did this, if you're using a Mac, it's Shift Command 4, and then you can drag your cursor, and then if you want to hold your space bar, you can move that box around, and it just lets you measure things. So I do that all the time. 580. So we'll say 580 width, 580 pixels, margin 0 auto, and let's see. There we go. We are getting there. Now we have to center all of this content in the container. So why don't we just say text align center? And it centered the text and the form, but the image isn't centered because it's a background image. You actually have to, because we specifically set a width, we need to do the margin 0 auto trick on the logo as well. There we go. Now it is centered within its content, and we're getting there. You can start to see that it's actually starting to fall into place. And now what we want to do is style that input. So I'm just going to select the input type search. And I am going to give it the width of 100%. So we'll flow 100% of the container width. Let's see. Yep. And we have some padding inside of it. So padding on the top. Well, no, let's go padding. 5 pixels on all sides. Now, because we know a specific width, instead of using 100%, we're just going to say 580 pixels, and that will give us 580 pixels. But because we're using padding, that's adding 10 on each side, so I'm going to take off 10 of the total width. That will give us our search bar here with the full width. But the problem is, looks like the padding did not work. So why don't we display block? That's probably the issue. And no, that didn't work either. And so I think what's happening here is the search input in Chrome is the styles are being overridden. The native styles are overwriting my styles. It wants to stay this height. And now I might be able to hack this with the height property. Let's try it out. Let's say height, I don't know, 40 pixels. Let's see. That might do it for me. And it's still not. So, and this is in real time, this is me coming across an issue, and this is totally live. I mean, it's recorded, but I didn't pre-plan this. It's not working. And this is something that you come across a lot. And the thing here, this is where I would find out and realize, hey, maybe the search input, the HTML5 search input is not for me right now. Although it's more semantic than just a plain text input, it's not working because I can't style it the way that I need it to be styled. So in that case, let's just take the type and change it to text, because good enough. And type over here, text. We don't need that height property because I know that this is going to work. I don't need display block. And let's save that, see what happens. And there we go. So now we have the full width text, and it looks like it needs to. It's getting pretty close. In fact, it's a little too tall. So let's give it the padding of, let's go for 7 pixels, which means the original width was 580, but now we need to take off 14 pixels. So let's do some math. Now let's see. That is better. That looks more like it should. Yep. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of space from the logo here to the rest of the elements. So basically, the input needs to have margin top of about 25 pixels and a margin bottom of about 18 pixels. So margin, 25 on top, 0 on the left and right, and 18 on the bottom. Let's see how that looks. Our site. There we go. That's getting closer.